YouTube channel. Swallowed Star 2, Origin Continent. Volume 9, Advancing Through the Darkness. Chapter 343, Unveiling the Veil. 5th of Volume 9. Translator, Shadow Knight AK. Editor, Shadow Knight AK. On the third day of Luo Feng's arrival at Chengfeng City, inside the cave mansion of God Emperor Boxiu. You've arrived. Boxiu, Bai Yin, Kai Zong, and Luo Feng together welcomed City Lord Feng Chao and a group of other peak existences. City Lord, God Emperor Boxiu greeted with a smile. So, this is God Emperor Luo Feng. City Lord Feng Chao, resembling a stone giant, looked over Luo Feng and said with a smile, in order to gather the necessary resources for this transaction, we've barely rested these past couple of days. The transaction with a total value of 300 billion Xuanhuan crystals, along with numerous bloodlines and military merits, would take even the forces led by City Lord Feng Chao and his fellow peak god emperors 2 to 3 days to prepare. You've worked hard, City Lord, Luo Feng replied with a calm smile. City Lord Feng Chao closely observed the black-clad, black-haired man before him. On the surface, Luo Feng didn't seem like someone deeply scheming, but he also knew better that one should not judge a practitioner by appearances. We've just learned some things about God Emperor Luo Feng. In just over 2,000 epochs, rising from an ordinary God Emperor to the peak level in Yulan City of the Nine Rivers Holy Realm. It's really impressive. City Lord Feng Chao praised. Such a rate of advancement was nearly unheard of in the Dark Holy Realm. Other peak-level figures also voiced admiration as they observed Luo Feng, curious about his reactions. They were also curious, did this God Emperor Luo Feng truly rise to the peak within just over 2,000 epochs, or was it merely a carefully crafted disguise? Boxiu spoke, let's finish the main business first. Okay, let's proceed with the trade. City Lord Feng Chao nodded. Luo Feng also nodded, flipping his hand to produce a storage bracelet, lifting its seal, and allowing everyone present to inspect it. City Lord Feng Chao and the others sent out their spiritual senses to peer inside, discovering a densely packed countless low-level Xuanhuan life corpses. They couldn't help but exclaim in awe. Seeing it with my own eyes is still a bit shocking. To harvest hundreds of thousands of low-level Xuanhuan lifeforms at one time, it's truly remarkable. City Lord Feng Chao said, we will first provide Brother Luo Feng with 10 million military merits, along with the auxiliary treasures and various Xuanhuan bloodline materials he purchased. On top of that, we'll add 512 billion Xuanhuan crystals. As for the remaining 20 million military merits reserved by Brother Luo Feng, we estimate that we can collect them all within 1,000 epochs. Then we'll complete the transfer. Luo Feng nodded. Each 10 million military merits costs 1.3 trillion Xuanhuan crystals. Eventually, he would still need to prepare 2.6 trillion more for the full trade. But that was a matter for the future. In previous chapter 342 there was a mistranslation. Luo Feng sold Xuanhuan lifeforms corpses worth a total of 7.3 trillion. Please deliver the Xuanhuan bloodlines and auxiliary cultivation treasures to Transmission Holy Mountain. Luo Feng instructed his clone was already waiting there. City Lord Feng Chao smiled slightly, then sent it to the Transmission Holy Mountain. Luo Feng's clone sat cross-legged beside a dark lake, patiently waiting. When Feng Chao confirmed the delivery, Luo Feng soon saw a battleship flying in from the distance. In just a few moments, it landed beside the mountaintop lake. God Emperor Luo Feng. 3 peak-level existences stepped out from the group. They were a team assigned to escort the delivery. This time, they had just exchanged for high-level Xuanhuan bloodlines and corresponding materials from the large Xuanhuan hall. With their combined strength, they could face nearly all dangers within the Dark Holy Realm. After all, this transaction was worth over 600 billion Xuanhuan crystals, nothing to be careless about. Thank you for your efforts. Luo Feng stood up to greet and receive them. After confirmation of delivery from Chengfeng City, Luo Feng accepted the items and, after briefly inspecting them with his divine sense, confirmed they were all in order. With a wave of his hand. Whoosh! Luo Feng leapt into the transmission lake, locking onto the spatial coordinates of the origin continent within the origin world, returning instantly. Inside a secluded chamber of the City Lord's mansion in Huyang City of the origin continent, within a quiet room of Star Tower. He had now gathered every low-level Xuanhuan bloodline related to life and destruction in the world cluster centered on the Dark Holy Realm. As for high-level Xuanhuan bloodlines related to the fusion of life and destruction, he had collected 73 types of them. On this floor of the Star Tower, the center was neatly filled with various Xuanhuan bloodlines, each paired with 10 corresponding materials. Early Stage God Emperor, Mid-Stage God Emperor, Late Stage God Emperor, Perfection Stage God Emperor, Ultra-Limit Level Low-Level Hunyuan bloodlines were finally categorized. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines were much more roughly divided. All life and death type bloodlines, at most, can reach the level of life-death fusion. There has never been true fusion life and death. Luo Feng shook his head slightly. Naturally born Hunyuan lifeforms came with innate bloodlines, containing mysterious aspects of the great Tao's time, space, life, darkness, destruction. These were the most fundamental, purest forms of the Tao. True fusion of Taos had never naturally occurred. That's also why fusion Taos were so incredibly difficult. Hopefully I can find a way to break through this bottleneck from these Hunyuan bloodlines. Luo Feng opened his eye of life and death at his brow and began carefully observing. Learning from the essence of naturally born Hunyuan lifeforms was a path for all practitioners. Crunch. Luo Feng flipped his hand and took out a red fruit, finishing it in a few bites. Invisible energy nourished his soul, his thoughts and perception speed surged 100-fold, and his mind became immensely clear and comfortable. With his current wealth, Luo Feng could now consume these auxiliary treasures regularly. Still I can't find a way to break through. Despite his current realm and even with the help of the secret treasure, the Eye of Life and Death, even for ultra-limit level Hunyuan bloodlines, Luo Feng could see through them completely. Though he hadn't studied them deeply, one glance told him none of them held a method for controlling an immense physical body. None of the low-level Hunyuan bloodlines contained that answer. Luo Feng felt a tinge of disappointment. In his expectations, the semi-Hunyuan life-death Tao body was so immense, far beyond even the low-level Hunyuan lifeforms. Now, it seems normal that he can't find the answer. Now, it's up to the high-level Hunyuan bloodlines. Luo Feng turned toward the 73 types of high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, one of them possessing the largest physical body among them all. This high-level Hunyuan bloodline was carefully preserved. The crystalline red liquid shimmered with strange visions, as though a fiery red bird was spreading its wings, ready to soar. This is my first time observing a high-level Hunyuan bloodline. The transformation from low-level to high-level Hunyuan lifeform is an unprecedented qualitative leap. Even if there are billions or trillions of low-level Hunyuan lifeforms, they're still no match and are merely cannon fodder before a high-level Hunyuan lifeform. Before such a massive disparity, numbers became meaningless. Buzz. Luo Feng's Eye of Life and Death at his brow watched the high-level Hunyuan bloodline intently. This particular Hunyuan bloodline was brimming with life force. About 50% of its mysteries belong to the Tao of life, 30% to the Tao of destruction, and the rest involved elements like matter and other profound principles. The difficulty of observation has increased tremendously. Luo Feng frowned slightly. Even with the Eye of Life and Death, there are regions I still can't see clearly. With the aid of the Eye of Life and Death, Luo Feng's observation ability was equivalent to a typical high-level Hunyuan being. Even high-level Hunyuan beings couldn't fully comprehend each other's bloodline mysteries. They could only see the surface level and mid-level principles at best. The deepest layers were concealed by formless veils. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines are still more suitable for my enlightenment. The blood-red scale in the Star Tower is of too high a level, and I can only observe the shallowest exterior. Even the Eye of Life and Death, which itself belongs to a world-creating level Hunyuan being, which is too advanced. High-level Hunyuan bloodlines, however, are already something I can try to comprehend with my current level. It's not as insurmountable. Historically, there have been practitioners who awakened the ultimate form of their bloodline by comprehending high-level Hunyuan bloodlines and broke free from the cage. Luo Feng thought, if they could achieve ultimate awakening, then me comprehending part of these bloodlines should be normal. He patiently meditated and studied, as days passed one by one. Suddenly, at a particular moment, Luo Feng's Eye of Life and Death locked onto part of the bloodline's mystery. Within it, he saw a structure of soul consciousness that governed the control of a massive physical form. I've found it finally, I've found it. Luo Feng was overwhelmed with excitement. Clearly, the capability was inherent in high-level Hunyuan life forms, it just required one to painstakingly search for the right path. This high-level Hunyuan bloodline is called the Shadow of Heavenly Fire, and it possesses an enormous physique. Luo Feng's heart stirred. High-level Hunyuan beings typically had large bodies, but their sizes still varied. Luo Feng quickly reviewed the other bloodlines he had acquired, spending over 100 days to roughly scan through them in search of similar spiritual consciousness control systems for massive bodies. Among these 73 types of high-level Hunyuan bloodlines, only 3 contain such profound spiritual consciousness control over massive bodies, and all 3 belongs to especially enormous beings among high-level Hunyuan life forms. Luo Feng smiled. With these 3 bloodlines as references and guides, he now had hope of breaking through his bottleneck. Thankfully, among the high-level Xuanhuan bloodlines he bought, there were 3 that contained such mysteries of spiritual consciousness control over enormous forms. If he had not obtained them, it might have taken who knows how long to grope about in the dark for a path. Such is cultivation. When a naturally born Xuanhuan life form lifts the veil and illuminates the path ahead, it becomes much easier to follow. But not every bottleneck has a path that can be discovered in this way. These 3 high-level Xuanhuan beings are named Shadow of Heavenly Fire, Abyssal Calamity Beast, and 9-Headed Chaos Beast. All possess extraordinarily large bodies among their kind. One by one, I'll study them carefully. Luo Feng continued his research on the Shadow of Heavenly Fire bloodline. The Shadow of Heavenly Fire was an avian creature of immense size. Facing it was like facing boundless heavenly fire. It was difficult to see its full form. When it spread its wings, its shadow cast disaster upon the land. The spiritual consciousness controls the immense physical form. Luo Feng used his Eye of Life and Death to examine it in detail. As he researched, Luo Feng encountered obstacles. The mysteries within the Xuanhuan bloodline didn't exist in isolation, they were entangled in complex ways. To comprehend the spiritual consciousness's control over the body, he needed to disentangle these threads. Fortunately, the high-level bloodlines he had purchased were primarily life and destruction types, allowing Luo Feng to parse most of them. As time passed, the mystery of spiritual consciousness control over a vast physical form gradually unfolded before him. So this is how the Shadow of Heavenly Fire controls its immense body. Although Luo Feng had only uncovered a small part, he already understood the basic principle. Blank, underscore 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 underscore. End of chapter. Subscribe to MTL World at Mittel World 1 YouTube channel.